Hey guys, it's Katie with S&B, and today we're going to install our particle separator for the roll bar on the 2023 Polaris Pro R. So let's get started. You're going to start by removing these 4 screws so you can remove the bed. Now you can remove the bed from the vehicle. Next, you're going to remove these 3 screws and these 3 rivets. Next, you're going to remove this rivet that's underneath the plastic. Next, you're going to remove this rivet that's underneath the plastic. Now you're going to want to remove both of the back seats from the vehicle. Next, you're going to remove these 3 screws. You have one right here, one here, and then one tucked away down here. So after you remove the 3 screws from the inside of the vehicle, you'll notice there is a snap clip right here. And what we did is we lifted up this tab and then we were able to pull it out. Now the last step before removing this side panel, there is one more rivet right here that you're going to have to get out. Next, we're going to remove this back panel, and you're just going to untwist these quarter turns. Now we're going to loosen the hose clamp that's attached to the side cover. Now you're going to remove these 2 screws. You'll have one down here and then one up above as well. Now you're going to want to remove the side cover from the intake tube. Now you're going to want to grab the brackets, the provided hardware, so the screws and the washers, and install them onto the S&B side cover. This is the orientation that you should install them. Now you're going to install the S&B side cover onto the intake tube, and then you will secure it down using the stock screws. Make sure that this top bracket is in between this plastic here, and then you can secure it down. After you've secured the brackets to the vehicle, make sure that the tube is pushed all the way up onto the side cover, and then tighten down the hose clamp. Now you're going to install the clamp adapter on both sides of the particle separator, and you'll secure it down using the provided hardware and thread locker. So we want to install the particle separator on this top bar. This vehicle has a roof, so we're just going to remove these 4 screws so we can gain access to it. Now you're going to install the clamps onto the roll bar. We like to put down some sort of plastic bag just to help prevent any scratching. Since we're going to mount the particle separator underneath the roll bar, we're just going to rotate the clamps into position. Now you're going to install the pivot bodies using the provided hardware on both of the clamps. Install the L brackets onto the pivot bodies using the provided hardware. You're going to want to install all of this hardware kind of loosely by hand, and then after we have the separator in place, we'll go back and tighten it all down. Right now we're deciding the placement. It is easier with two people, so you can have one person hold up the separator and the second person tighten down the L brackets onto the particle separator. Now that we have the angle of the L brackets decided on the particle separator, we're just going to go back in, add thread locker, and then tighten down the straps. Now go back in and tighten everything down. Firstly, install the hose clamp and the end cuff onto the ducting, and then we're going to install it and measure to know how much we need to cut off. So after you loosely install the ducting, you're just going to want to line it up. So you're going to measure where you want to cut it. We're going to cut it a little bit longer, and then we'll install it onto the separator. Once you have the ducting cut to size, you're just going to install the clamp and the end cuff onto the duct. Install the ducting onto the particle separator and then tighten down the hose clamp. So now we're going to install the main harness, and so you'll just want to open up this front cubby over here, pull this out, and then we're going to need to remove one of the clips back here so we can plug it in. So to do that, you'll just pinch the sides, and then you can pull it out. Now we're just going to plug in the harness, and then we'll feed it down and start feeding it through the center console of the vehicle. Now you're going to remove all of these bolts that are securing the side of the console. That way you can lift this up and it'll make it easier to feed the wiring through. Once you have all the bolts removed, you can then take the connector part of the wiring harness and you can slide it through the opening in the top of the vehicle here, and you should see it feed out the bottom. Before you start feeding the wire harness to the back of the vehicle, just make sure that you remove these two bolts over here. So to start feeding the wire harness to the back, you're just going to want to lift up the side panel and stick the harness in through here, leaving this part out, so that'll make it easier to pull, and then you can tuck the excess as you go. Remove these 4 push rivets. Next, you're going to remove all the screws that are securing the bottom panel under the rear passenger seats. Once you have all the screws removed, you can then remove the panel from the vehicle. So now you're going to lift up the center console. You're going to stick the connector underneath the frame, and then you should be able to pull it through. Once you've pulled all the slack through underneath the frame on the center console, then go back and tuck in all the wiring.
We may have pulled too much. But I think
So to gain access to this wire, you're going to push back this tape, and then we can install the ignition sensor. So we're going to install the ignition sensor onto that wire. Be careful, it is a very small clip and it's easy to drop. You'll want the orientation to go this way. This is how it should look installed. It should be about 1 inch away from the inner wire. Zip tie on both sides of the connector onto the wire so it doesn't shift. So now you're going to route the connector through this opening over the hoses to the rear passenger side. Plug the Y-splitter harness into the back of the particle separator. So plug in the main harness and the ignition sensor harness into the Y-splitter, and then you'll just want to turn the car on and make sure that everything is working properly. So after you finish testing and making sure that everything is working okay, you have no issues, you're going to take the zip ties and route the wire harness however you'd like. This is how we decided to do it. You just want to make sure that you keep it away from any hot or moving parts. All right, guys, so the last step is just to put everything back together. So I really hope this video helped you, but if you have any questions or you just want to know more, you can always check it out on our website, and I'll see you next time.